So the first thing we want to talk about is free will. And the reason why is because you might say that this is the most important condition for an action to even be considered virtuous or moral or good, or to even have any worth whatsoever. In order to see this, think of a computer, say an android doing something. Say an android that is able to dive into water and save people from drowning. Would we say that what this android did was good? In a sense, yes, but we really wouldn't be talking about the android. We wouldn't say, oh, the android should be rewarded, or that the android should be praised, or that we should admire the android. We might admire the workmanship that went into it, but what we'd really be admiring is the person who programmed the computer. In the same sense, if an android killed a person, we would say that there's a problem with the programming. We would go back to the thing or the person that is originally responsible. So the key notion in giving any action worth is the fact that someone is responsible. And what gives somebody responsibility is the fact that they were doing it voluntarily or they freely chose to do so. So you can see why, therefore, Aristotle starts his definition of virtue saying it's an intentional or purposive disposition. It's something that we made the choice to create in ourselves. And so, why is free choice so important? Because it's what gives our action their worth. And we know this because if a person doesn't have a choice, we absolve them of any responsibility. So, thus we don't praise them when they've done it, or if they've done something bad, we have pity on them and we absolve them. This is the whole source of what you might call in modern jurisprudence the insanity defense. The insanity defense is the idea that you were somehow not responsible for your actions because you weren't in your right mind. You didn't do it freely or by choice. And so you can see that we're using two words here interchangeably, but they're not interchangeable for Aristotle. The first is voluntary. An action cannot be a free choice unless it is voluntary. So we need to understand what makes an action voluntary versus involuntary, or this middle category we're going to see, which he calls non-voluntary. But not every voluntary action is one that is done by choice. And thus, a smaller category is choice. So every free action is a choice and therefore voluntary, but not every voluntary action is done by choice. We might desire to do it, but we didn't really choose to do it. So he's going to make a distinction here. He's going to say animals and children can do things voluntarily, but they do not have the power of reason or choice yet. So in the next video, we're going to now look at what makes an action voluntary versus involuntary. And then in the next segment after that, we're going to narrow it down to talk about choice.